Hey folks, in this episode of the Light Artist Podcast, I'm speaking with photographer Jordan Banks. Welcome back to another episode of the Light Artist Podcast. Today I have the honor of speaking with someone who is a multidisciplinary photographer. Photography isn't the only thing this guy does. He's also a publisher and, of course, an NFT aficionado, Jordan Banks. Jordan, welcome to the Light Artist Podcast. How's it going?
Yeah, really good. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to this.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure to have you. You know, you and I were talking before I started recording, and, I was basically digitally stalking you yesterday, looking at your website and enjoying all the photography that's there. And then also, the magazine project you're working on. I want to talk about all that. But before we dive into that, let's do a quick introduction. Who is Jordan Banks? Like, what is your elevator pitch? You're trapped in an elevator with someone, and they're like, hey, sir, what do you do? What do you tell them?
Primarily, I'm a travel and documentary photographer. That's go by if someone asks what I do. But like you say, I do lots of different things. I've obviously travel photography is my main thing. I've really gone hell for leather on Web3 NFTs. I mean, it's been almost a year now, and it's just been something that I discovered, and I have not looked back. It's been a space that I've been waiting for 20 years in photography. I never thought it would actually arrive, that we'd have this sense of community, sense of camaraderie, appreciation for actually the art form of photography, what we're doing here. And it's a special time to be alive. So I'm starting to verge on almost calling myself an NFT photographer, NFT artist, that sort of thing. I also am the co-founding editor of a travel magazine, JRNY, so I could put in co-founding editor, or I also acted as the picture editor, but as we were talking off camera before, I'm sort of looking at bringing things into Web3. So yeah, I've sort of been different titles banded around for me. I also run workshops, travel tours and workshops that are all photography based, and we do a lot of community based stuff around that for looking to bring underprivileged or different locations and countries, and bring kids into photography and teach them the art and make photography accessible to them. Obviously, it's one of those things that's, once you've got the equipment or even basic equipment, it's pretty easy to take part in. But for a lot of young kids out there, that's still those $100, $1,000 is a bit of equipment is not there to play with. So yeah, we spend a lot of time trying to give back to the communities and really support the art of photography in the UK. Mainly in the UK, we do do stuff over abroad as much as we can, but it's obviously a lot harder.
That's great
to do stuff abroad.
I'm curious, and that's great. And, I want to explore that a little bit as well. But I'm curious about, you said the where you are now has been, you've been sort of waiting for this nexus of time or confluence of events, for 20 years or so. What does that mean? Like, what were you waiting for? Just the invention of a mechanism like NFT or the blockchain to make it happen, or something else?
No, more the community, I'd say, really. I mean, when I say waiting as well, I wasn't really waiting. I didn't know what I was waiting for, but one of the things that I've always not disliked about photography is nothing to do with the actual art form, but I fell in love with an art form that I did as a youngster, as a child, and really just, I did for a passion. I never thought it would be a job. I just thought it was something that I loved this, and I fell into it as a job just through being in the right place at the right time. And we're going back 22 years or so it was all film. There wasn't the competition there is now, so I think it was a bit easier to, find my space. But there was always been a lot of, hatred, bitching, people not been, they wouldn't share jobs, they wouldn't share your work, they'd all be very jealous, all very underhanded, they'd be nice to your friend, really behind your back, they'd say other things, and it just felt like there was no real community. Everyone was very jealous when someone else got a good job, or, they didn't want other people's success, and there was no sense of camaraderie that I felt, and that's never how I've wanted to work. I've always wanted to, help people out, recommend people, push art forms forward, and especially photography. I think we all know as photographers, it's been a relatively undervalued art form, I think, and you can see as well. So that moved forward in sort of, just using stock photography, for example. I mean, it used to be a fairly good living. Now, you'd be lucky if you make a couple of $100 a month, out of sales and things. It's just taken advantage of and just been a race to the bottom. And now we're in this place in time that it's just what I've been waiting for. I didn't know what I was waiting for, but this is it. I didn't think it would happen, to be honest. I didn't think that I'd ever find this. I thought, I just have to suck it up. And most of my friends outside of, or in life are not photographers. They're all just, do their own thing, whatever job it might be. I didn't have much interest in mixing with photographers, really, because they didn't, locally, they weren't interested in actually being friends. They were just jealous or, looking to just get the one up on you. Whereas now I'd say, in a year, I've got some of the best friends I've ever met, through Web3 and NFTs, because they've got the same values that I hold in photography and about the art form and about the community and the sense of place that we're in.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been speaking with lots of photographers, and lately, of course, as we've been building this Light Artists podcast, one of the common denominators that I've been hearing is the community side of it, right? And how amazing the community is in the NFT space, and the differences between the NFT world and, like you were saying, the kind of don't look at my marbles side of on the other side of the fence.
I should point out that might only be my experience. I'm sure other people have very different. I hope they've had very different experiences to me, but yeah, that's been mine. I should point out. But go on, sorry, I interrupted.
It's common. I've seen that across the board so far. But I'm curious. We're relatively new in this world, right? The NFT world, and people are still kind of understanding it. There's a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt in the space, and I think a lot of that, just personally looking at it from kind of a semi 1 foot in the three-legged race perspective, a lot of that is because there's the uncertainty is driving the camaraderie. Like, we're all in this together and we're figuring it out. We have all of our spears are pointed outward and we're protecting each other and all that. I wonder, from your perspective, what do you think that is maintainable? That level of high quality community is maintainable when growth starts happening? Like when this stuff hits, the ultra mainstream, and there are thousands and thousands or hundreds of thousands of people that are participating, will it be as intimate of a community as it is today? Or is right now the good old days? Like, hey, you remember back in 2022? It was amazing. And now, what do you think?
I'd like to say that it'll stick around and it'll be here forever, but I think the skeptic in me says that no, it probably won't. These will be the good old days. But what I do feel is that I think that the community that's here now and respects what's going on will move forward and still remain a fairly tight-knit, almost sub-community, I guess. I do believe that we will stick together and we will build together, and I really hope that forefront, that those foundations that we're all building now will be something that people take on board and go, this is the way of Web3, this is the way of living a good life, this is the way of everything should be done, business, community, everything. But I'm not totally sure it will, because there's always people who come in who think they know better or just want to change things up, or they really aren't interested in that. They just want to make money and that's their sole objective. So, but I do believe that this core group, because if you look at it now, really, it's of photographers that are doing it, is it even 10,000 people? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure it is really, that are really solidly active, that are solidly building. It might, for people who are really trying to push this space forward, it could be in the thousands even, or maybe even hundreds. I'm not, I've never done the calculation, but I think that core group that stick around will stick together and will build long-lasting connections, and they'll have their own sub-community that keeps this driving forward, that, will keep collectors and keep, and bring in people, and will grow as well, because people who want to be part of that will stick around. But I think that we will definitely look at this back as the good old days, unfortunately. But I really, really hope I'm wrong.
Yeah. Well, things will change regardless, right? So let's hope the change goes in a positive, nurturing direction versus, a different direction. I want to segue the conversation into your work, and I'm going to bring up your website here, which is at jordanbanksphoto.com. And first of all, congratulations! What an outstanding, amazing body of work you've put together here. Can you tell the folks that are listening a little bit about your process when you're shooting? And you mentioned at the beginning that you do a lot of workshops around the world. Are these what you're shooting here? Are these were these shot during workshops, or are these dedicated missions that you send yourself on? What was the driving force for these photos we're looking at?
Yeah, nothing of this was shot on a workshop. I mean, I don't shoot anything on workshops, really. I mean, it would have to be absolutely spectacular conditions for me to shoot something on. It's all for my clients or the guests. And I do a limited amount of them. I probably actually only do, run 2 or 3 myself a year. I've got a company that does more. I spend more of my time on, bringing things forward and actually helping out the youth that I talked about. Whereas all of this stuff has been predominantly shot on assignment, whether it be for commercial clients such as hotels, tourist boards, that sort of thing. I do a lot of stuff for banks. Which seems weird with what I do, because you'd think it would be not like that, but they sort of use my imagery to sort of promote and do these things, lots of sort of the airport adverts. And then a large portion is editorial, like National Geographic Traveller,
wow.
Lonely Planet magazine, a lot of airlines as well, in-flight air magazines, Wizz Air, British Airways, Virgin, all of those. So yeah, and then I normally do about 1 shoot a year, which depend. I used to be able to make that happen more. I've got 2 young children now, so yeah, I tend to not, if I can, it's 1 shoot a year. And sometimes, obviously the last couple of years, I've had to miss that completely. But yeah, I mean, 1 personal shoot that I do, where I just go out and do something that I want to do and want to create. And, abroad, that is, I shoot in the UK quite a lot, in London and things like that. Or a little bit of Europe or things like that. But yeah, generally it's all been shot on assignments or paid jobs, really.
Yeah, you know what? I need to know personally this shot right here. Where is this? Is this the Amalfi Coast?
No, it's Cinque Terre, which is, I've never actually been to Amalfi, but I think looks very similar. Cinque Terre is sort of just above Rome, Tuscany area.
Oh,
but it's,
that's beautiful.
Cinque Terre is 5 little villages, and this is Manarola, which is probably one of the most famous or picturesque. They're all pretty picturesque, to be honest, but that's one of the most picturesque villages on the coastline.
Wow, that's gorgeous. Tell me you stayed in one of these beautiful buildings.
I did. Not in that one. I stayed in a place called Rio. If you're Italian, I'm going to butcher the name. Rio Maggiore, I think it is, if I remember correctly. And is a shot that's very famous of that. We might even scroll past in my portfolio somewhere. And there's a house in that, and I stayed. It's almost like the centre of that shot. I stayed in the very centre of the village in it. I turned up there and I was like, wow, how did I get this place? I was pretty lucky.
Beautiful. That is beautiful. And Jordan, what if you were to peg yourself as a particular kind of photographer, what would it be? A travel photographer, landscape photographer, or do you not like labels like that?
I was going to say, I use travel, but I kind of find travel as a bit of a lazy term. And I think I don't mean that anyone bad who uses it. I mean more that it's kind of, travel could be anything. If you're a landscape photographer, you probably travel to go there. If you, a portrait photographer, there's a good, a street photographer, you probably, you could be a level of travel in it. But I use travel and documentary because what my I started off shooting, conflict stuff. Like really, I really wanted to be a war photographer or a conflict photographer. I started off doing that, and that was what my real passion was, and what I loved about photography was capturing that raw moment that could potentially change the world. And not my images, but some people's images have had that power, and I believed in the power of a single image that could really have an impact on changing policy, opinions, whatever it might be. And as we've seen, it has done in the past. So I wanted to do this, sort of turned off to it a bit when I met some of my people I looked up to. I can't think of the word now, but people who I respected, and such as James Natchway, Alexander Boulay, these sort of people who were Magnum photographers, and then moved on to Seven, and did all the time stuff, and they were lovely and they were supportive, and like, yeah, you can do this, but be aware that at some point there's no going back. You can see something that you can't recover from, and are you prepared for this? And it's going to affect your personal life, or it could affect your personal life, your personal relationships, all these sorts of things. And he was like, just ask yourself these questions. If you think that's yes, then do it. I don't want to put you off, but be aware of these. And I sort of sat back for a while and was like, yeah, actually, I'm not sure I, need that. As much as I believe in this, maybe I can take this down another way. So I set out and started doing, obviously National Geographic was the perfect thing. National Geographic Traveller, this editorial type photography where it's maybe not so much, it's not dangerous, and I'm not going to see harrowing things that are going to affect my, future life and mentality and whatever it might be. But I still get to really tell stories that are important, that that need to be told to the world, and capture those raw moments again that really mattered to me, that were important in what I did in my photography. And that transitions obviously into being some beautiful landscapes, some meaningful portraits, cityscapes, a bit of everything, really.
Yeah. What part of the, looking at your body of work, it's just stunning. When I look at that, I'm thinking, where has Jordan been that he cannot not go back to? Like, in other words, what's your favorite location, of all the places that you've traveled so far?
I don't know this. I mean, I don't often go back to places that much. I mean, the one place if I was returning to is I consistently go back to the Balkans. I think so Montenegro, Croatia, Slovenia, to 3 places. My wife is actually from Dubrovnik in Croatia, so we did live out there for a while. So we do regularly go back, and there's just so much to shoot out there that I'm already there, and that's one of my personal. I get to sort of shoot and do what I want. I do stuff for the tourist board over there as well. So we're all 3 of their tourist boards. I'd say there's a country that keeps dragging me back is Mexico. I don't know how many times. Mexico, India. They're 2 that keep dragging me back time after time. There's always, India is just, I think I could, there'll always be another festival or another event that I hear of when I'm going there. And Mexico, I spent 2.5 years living between Mexico and Guatemala. We can go and be a bit more free. We'll move back to Mexico or Guatemala or somewhere in Central America or Latin America. Latin America generally is, a place I just love. I'm constantly going back to anywhere in Latin America.
Any tips that you want to throw out there for photographers that are, hey, I want to be a Jordan Banks. I want to travel the world and take fantastical images and change the world through my lens. If someone, either it's an experienced photographer that's playing in a different genre that wants to jump into this genre of photography, or someone that's brand new that's, sitting in a cubicle somewhere lusting after doing this kind of work, what would be your tips or your first tip of, to start doing it?
I think the obvious tip is you've just got to go out there and do it and take photographs and put yourself out there, and you're going to get shut down. It's going to hurt. It's going to sting. I mean, now it doesn't bother me, but that's because I've just got used to it. I realize you can't be in this career if you're going to take rejection, but it starts off. But if you can get past that, but I think the biggest thing I see today is that people believe the hype of Instagram, of social media, whatever it might be, that they go, when I get these kids come on, or even people come watch, they're like, hey, I want to take pictures like this. I want to do that. And they're like, one step at a time. Don't, just because they're saying it's all great, just because it looks all great, really, you need to find your own path and not just try and think that the answer is get 1 million followers on Instagram and you become a professional travel photographer. I mean, most of the most successful travel photographers I know, their Instagram following is, maybe in the hundreds or not even non-existent really, because, it doesn't matter to them. They're getting to travel the world doing these jobs, and they haven't got time to post on social media and, these sort of things. So I think believing the hype of social media is a really dangerous thing that people get caught into. And I'd say it's the biggest hold up I see of people's progression in the photography industry at the moment, is that they're looking to emulate rather than be themselves and create and be original.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm also curious about, I want to get to obviously the nerd talk about gear and process and all that stuff. But the other side of this equation, we're talking about NFTs and all that. The other side of that is the collector side of the conversation, right? So you're a creator, and then there are the collectors that are looking in, not necessarily photographers. Maybe in some cases they are, or in a lot of cases they are. But from a collector standpoint, what's the conversation you have with that person when there's someone that's thinking, hey, I want to acquire a Jordan Banks piece or an NFT, but I'm unsure about this whole NFT world and how all that's going. What do you tell them? What's the conversation you have with a potential collector or purchaser of one of your pieces?
I mean, I've not had anyone that was a collector of my or had any contact with trying to bring someone from real life Web 2, whatever you want to call it, into collecting NFTs. That's not been something I've been actively looking at or even come across. But I've found that when I have spoken to collectors, it's pretty much just been a friendship relationship. It's like when you sell a piece from a gallery, there's not been a lot of art talked, at least for the first stages. We often, there might be no art collected, it just gets talking. They'll reach out to me like, hey, I really like your art. We'll start a conversation, and it'll very quickly end up into just talking about absolutely nothing, about family, friends, lifestyle, and almost anything. But I know that they know what I do. I know they know who I am. I know that's, if they've reached out to me, they know. I assume they know all that, unless they are. And if they ask something, then I tell it honestly and how it is and my real opinions on it. But yeah, it's super, super relaxed. I mean, it's actually something I really love about this space, that I don't feel I need to sell my work.
Yeah.
I'm accepted for, this is my work, and, I am who I am, and this is my, you can go and see where I've been to tear. I don't feel I need to publicize myself really anymore.
That's
and
great.
I'm happy to talk about it if they do, but I found collectors it's been a real eye-opener how real people they are. When I first came into the space, I really sort of had them like, these are going to be, multi-millionaires, or, that's just how it's totally wrong. Or they might be, I don't know, but you know what I mean? I had them set on this higher pedestal to me, and very quickly they were reaching out to me, and it was like, and now, a lot of them I speak to regularly on WhatsApp, phone calls, Zoom, whatever. And, I can just, some of my collectors, I'm like, hey, I've just got a question. I mean, Alpha Trilogy has just been a huge support of mine. He's just, I've just got an idea to shoot around him. He's, just the last week I've been on 3 or 4 Zoom calls with him for a few hours at a time. And like, even I'm like, hey, you got to go. I'm taking your time. And he's like, no, like, I love this. I'm helping you. I'm, giving you ideas. I'm helping, running through ideas. Again, I mean, I could go to a list of other, Crypto Juice, Punk 2070, Dro, D's, all of these guys have just, pretty much been there for me. And it's quite weird, to be honest. Like I say, how it's changed my view of, they're now friends rather than, I had them on this pedestal. They would want nothing to do with me apart from my art. And, more of the traditional art world, they come in, they buy a piece of work, and that's it. They don't need to know about your story or who you are or where you're going. And, now it's like, wow, this is a friend. And, awesome, they love my art. And it's, I have to say, it's actually got to a point sometimes where you sort of wonder if they might feel, it might be like, we're such good friends now that if they were to collect a piece, is it almost like weird? Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah,
like, your friends paying your salary, you're like, this is, do they feel, we are both going to feel a bit awkward about this? I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like I should give them the piece instead of purchasing, right?
But they're all so awesome in my experience anyway, and that is not something they'd want to do. They want to support artists. I think my first ever collector was Dro. I forget his it's like a weird Pedro2 or something, his Twitter handle. But he's an old school guy who's been in this, sort of 2016, 17. He was talking about the sort of crypto art and well before my time of being in this space. And he just loved it. And he was like, I love the fact that the guys who were, the finance guys and the guys who understood crypto or invested well now can support art. And then they, in turn, that artist supports their investment. And I sold my first piece. I think I had it listed at 1.5 ETH. And then it went into, he kicked off the auction. It went to his bidding war with Berkshire, and it ended up at 2.7. And at the time, that was like, I don't know, it's something like $12,000, $10,000 to $12,000. And I was like, I was just, and I'm like, I just need to speak. I wanted to reach out to him. And one of the questions I asked was like, why? Like, how, this is, I still needed to know why myself. I was like, I'm not devaluing the art, but it just seems so like, wow, I did not expect that to happen at all. And just speaking to him, and he was just like, this is why. And it's just like, and it changed my output on the entire community. And it actually changed my life. It made me go, right, this is so much more than I ever thought it was. Like, this is just unbelievable. And and that was back in sort of, I think October time of 2021.
Wow. So you said then recent. I want to switch gears and talk about one of the other projects that you have going on, and that's the JRNY Magazine. Can you talk a little bit about that and what the genesis of that project was and where it is now?
Where to start? So the pandemic hit in whatever it was, beginning of 2020 roughly. I'd been in Malaysia doing a job, and I'd just come back, and the pandemic hit, and all work stopped. I was supposed to be doing all these jobs. I had the busiest year. All went to pot. And then I was in Croatia that summer, actually doing a little bit of work while on holiday for the tourist board. And all my family were on holiday anyway. And I heard the news about Sunday Times travel magazine in the UK and Lonely Planet travel magazine going under during the pandemic. And I approached my business partner, who we run the workshops with, and said, "Hey, we should start a travel magazine." Like, as daft as that might sound, to start a travel magazine while others are falling apart. And then he actually reminded me that about 7 years ago, he'd come up with this idea of starting a magazine that was like by freelancers for freelancers. So he's like, "I've already got the business plan in that," but I wasn't really interested at the time because it was more to make money, and we didn't have the time. Obviously, we're in full flow as working photographers, doing our workshop thing, doing all sorts of other stuff. So we put it on the back burner. I forgot about it, but we had this business plan that was still there. So then what we did, so that's what we'd set out, and this was a whole support project that was just basically, we wanted to make sure that photographers, writers who were relying on these sums of money to live and pay the rent, and in the UK were not supported at all. Like, there was given to artists, creators were given no furlough, nothing, no money, nothing. So they were just on their own to survive. And obviously they're not the highest paid people in the world at the best of times. And also, we didn't want them to just die. So we started this magazine, we crowdfunded it, and we worked out we needed £7,000 to pay each person the right amount of money that they needed, which was, we still wanted to actually grow, but we obviously needed to just get the magazine out of the door. So we managed to give, and then within a week, we'd actually crowdfunded the full amount. And by the end of it, we doubled it. So we were able to pay each contributor double, which at the time was about £500. So over what you'd get with most other magazines already for our first issue. We planned to only do one issue, but it was so well received that we just carried on, and it's now in stock. It's in WH Smith's throughout the UK, which is our major news agent, Selfridges, which is a sort of high-end store. We got it in Books A Million in the US, Barnes and Noble in the US, and a host of other sort of outlets across Europe and, as far as Australia and Japan and Latin America. So it's a truly global magazine as well, which most magazines aren't. It contains no advertising. It's all long-form writing, photography, high-end photography that's, been highly edited by professionals to look its very best. And all that was been super, it was going really well. We just didn't know where it was. And then suddenly we were nominated for Travel Magazine of the Year, which kept getting delayed, the announcement. And then in January this year, was it January? Maybe it was March, actually. I can't remember. It kept getting delayed. I think maybe it was March, actually. We won. So our first issue, we were named the Travel Magazine of the Year, which has taken us on leaps and bounds. And, basically now we're flooded with tourist boards, any sort of hotel. We've got more places and destinations than we can cover, and are getting support from all over the place. Like, our second issue is sponsored by the Mississippi Tourist Board. We've got Switzerland interested. I mean, most countries' tourist boards are interested in now supporting the magazine and sponsoring it and moving it forward. So it's really, and the goal is to actually, in the end, get photographers, writers, creatives paid what they should be paid. So, we believe they're worth more than £500 each story and each commission. But so we want to get it to, whatever that figure is worth, rather than, the ever underpaid photographer and writer. I mean, I was sat at the awards, and I won't go into who she is or what she did or even mention what she awards, but she was a very, very good writer, and she mentioned that she earned, last year she's got 3 children, a husband who can't work, and she only made £18,000. And you're like, this is one of the best travel writers in the country, and she earned £18,000 last year. Like, that was just, brought home what we were doing, that this was unacceptable. This is not living wage. And there's incredible talent out there, people who might never get into this industry purely because they can't afford to get into it, because there's no money in it. It's a passion project at this stage.
Yeah. You know what I find interesting as we have this conversation is you have so much going on, right? I mean, just looking at your portfolio, yeah, sure, it spans years, but you have so much going on. You're building this magazine, and I think you mentioned you have 2 little ones running around there. How do you find time to do all this? What software are you using to manage your schedule that you have time to do all this stuff, Jordan?
I've got a really, really good team behind me. My wife's amazing as well. So that is 2 reasons. I've actually really struggled this year. I got COVID in around Christmas time.
Oh, wow.
And I've had long COVID since then. So I've really, really struggled in keeping, it's been a real Sure. I mean, I normally would get up about 4 in the morning, 4:30 in the morning. I'd run 10K. I'd I don't drink. I quit drinking a few years ago, and I mean I didn't have a problem or anything, but I just was like, no, I need to get this out of my life. I turned my diet around, everything, and I barely needed any sleep. I'd work till get up at run my 10K, do a few hours of work, take the kids to school, work till then pick the kids up, play with them for a few hours, put them to bed, then go to work, and I could survive on sort of 6-7 hours sleep, and I'd go to bed by like 9-10 o'clock. I'd be in bed and just start the process again. But I found eating healthily and not drinking massively helped. And it just also I cut things out of my life that weren't important, that I was wasting time on. And if I really streamlined my lifestyle to make sure
what did you cut out? What did you cut out of your life that wasn't important?
Well, I streamlined my business. I stopped worrying about things like social media. I mean, obviously now I'm on Twitter a lot, but I figure that's a bit different. But I didn't worry about Facebook, Instagram. I just concentrated on what I was doing. I stopped spending time with friends who, I was just you're just hanging out. There was nothing really going on. You were just wanting to be with friends for the friend's sake of it, and it was like I don't need this is a bit of a waste of my time, really, just sitting in a pub and even though I'm not drinking, just talking the same old stuff. And I can't just do all these jobs. It would get around to the day of the job and it just wasn't exciting me anymore, and I was doing things I wasn't really passionate about, and I was just like, right, I need to just cut these things out and do exactly what I want to do and when I want to do it, and be a bit more selfish. And I'm lucky that it's turned out really.
It's the excuse me, that's an edit point. Excuse me. Let me restate that. So what that sounds like is the fine art of saying no, right? Which a lot of people have trouble with, right? Being able to say no. The knee-jerk reaction, and I think for a lot of people, is just to say, yeah, I'll do that, and then figure it out later. Of course, there's only 24 hours in the day or less, right? And how do you get to your goals while saying yes to helping everyone else with their goals, right?
Yeah, it's the art of saying. I think that came with, for me, experience or just age or maturity. I'm not sure which. I was just, and children are a big part. Suddenly, for me, I realised, before my career was the most important thing to me, and now it's not. There's something far more important than anything in the world to me. So once you realise that, it's like, right, it put things in perspective for me, really, what was really important to my life. And, especially taking some of these jobs. And before, if it was a job, for an editorial job and I was free and there was nothing going on, you might only come back with a couple of $1,000s or pounds or whatever it might be. You're like, well, at least I get to go, it's not much money for 2 weeks work or whatever, but at least I'm, going around Switzerland or France or Utah, whatever it might be. Now it was like, well, actually, I want to be at home and I don't want to be away from my kids for 2 weeks. I want to be at home. If I'm getting paid enough money and it's worth it to me, then of course I'm going. We've got bills to pay, we've got a mortgage. They're going to want things when they get older, and that cost a lot of money. But it had to weigh up being worth my time, really. Not just, it was no longer about just singly having a good time and enjoying sometimes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, because it's a tangent, but the kids are only going to be that age once, right? And you could miss it or be there for it. If you could afford to be there for it, then be there for it, right? This is great, man.
Yeah,
this is
exactly.
What a great conversation. There's so much going on. It's so much excitement, and it's inspiring to hear what you have going on, what you're working on, and how you kind of focus things down into what's important to kind of burn a hole, on the important stuff. What's next? What's next for Jordan Banks? What's on your radar? I'm made the decision to go full into Web3. I mean, I massively believe in the technology. I'm still a complete amateur in terms of the technology, but I do believe that the blockchain, Web3, is the future of where I want the world to be. And I'm in a lucky position where I can give it time. I can, I've given it sort of a year. Well, so far it's been a year of my life, but I've still kept other stuff going. But I think after I've got some jobs coming up, and then at the end of the summer, my kids both go to the same school for the first time. And I'm going to be fully dedicated towards Web3 in terms of moving things forward, moving Journey into Web3 tokenization, really trying to take that support level of the magazine so it's got longevity and we can really make a difference and actually start giving back to communities
throughout Europe, throughout Africa, throughout Asia, and actually doing some good in the world and really taking this whole project of JRNY to the next level. And I just want to learn the blockchain, the technology, NFTs, tokenization. I believe it's the future of the world that we're going to live in, and I want to understand it. And I think that the opportunities are endless, even outside of art. I mean, I think if you understand this technology and how to utilize it, I think you could do anything, quite literally anything. I think I saw a quote from, I don't know, probably someone like 6529 or one of these guys saying that the biggest company in Web3 still hasn't been built, which resonated with me. I don't think I'm going to be the person who's going to build the biggest company in Web3, not that's big just in London. Then, that would, or just a photography or just do something. The potential is huge. I think that I'm so bullish on it, and it might be blind bullishness, but I figure at the worst, I'm going to have a great time. And there's nothing about this. If it doesn't work out and I'm totally wrong, which I really don't think I am, I will look back on this and I'll have had the greatest 2, 3. That's what's really important to me. It always has been, really, having a good time and making memories and enjoying myself and looking back without any regrets. And I definitely don't think I'll do that because I'm having a great time. Like sat here talking to you, spacers. If I really am, and having that, I might be a little bit poorer, but money comes and goes. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting. This time reminds me a lot of you remember when the iPhone 1 launched and it was revolutionizing and everyone thought this is amazing, how could it get better than this? And the as it turns out, the iPhone ushered in multi-billion dollar companies that we had no idea would show up, like Uber and Lyft and all these other companies that wouldn't be here had it not been for the smartphone introduction. I feel like we're kind of at that spot right now, with this technology, like you outlined. We're at the beginning of it. We don't know what companies are going to show up that are leveraging the technologies that are just kind of being figured out right now, right?
Completely. I couldn't agree more. And I think, as well, just being in this space at this time, I mean, the opportunities, I'm getting opportunities presented at such a fast rate to me that I have to turn some of them down. I couldn't do them all. And that goes back to that's a great time. I mean, imagine that. Not many people, you're like, come on, give me some opportunities. Here I'm going, I've got too many. And I think that's the case for if you put yourself out here and, dedicate yourself and show that you're willing and people, those opportunities are here and they're going to make a massive, those are the things that make a difference, connections, And one of the things I think as well is we've got this opportunity where it's a group of people in here now who want to create, want to make change, want to do something and do something positive, I believe. And just the connection to these people who, all the artists are going to hopefully become wealthy. And I don't want to bring it back to money, but I think the reality is that everyone, things have to come back to money, unfortunately. But I think, we can build, and if you come up with a great idea, I've already got so many people I could approach about, hey, this is a business idea of mine, and I've got 100 people at least that would seriously listen to me and listen to a business pitch, and could actually physically afford to make the difference and invest in a business that they thought was going to work. And I think that, like all business, that's how it works. The people and the connections you make, and we're in that now, and it's an incredibly special time, I think.
If people want to connect with you, check out your work and all the things that you're working on, what's a good place for them to go?
For NFT related stuff, Twitter, which is at @J_BanksPhoto. Instagram is Jordan Banks Photo or at Jordan Banks Photo. And I've got one social media channel in me at a time, really, and I'm pretty much dedicated to Twitter. And then my website, jordanbanksphoto.com. And if you're interested in JRNY, that is JRNYMag.com, so JRNYMag.com.
Excellent. All right, Jordan, thank you for coming on. Thanks for taking the time out of your crazy schedule to chat with us. This has been fantastic. I've got a page full of notes.
No,
here's what I wrote down. You'll be interested. Here's what I wrote down in order to, build Frederick 3.0. 4:30 a.m. Jordan gets up. Cut out the drinking. Change your diet and go to bed between 9 and 10 p.m. So that's part of my takeaway.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah. I think you've got to love what you do as well. I mean, I think you do love what you do. You can see the passion in just talking to you. But that makes it a lot easier if you truly love and truly believe what you're doing and passion for it. Then it makes it quite easy change, really. But it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, honestly. I really appreciate you having me on and chatting with me, and hope.
Anytime,
No,
anytime,
pleasure.
my friend. Anytime. Hey, and next time I'm in the UK,
Yeah, well, anytime you want me.
we're going out for a non-alcoholic drink next time I'm in the UK.
Yeah, I'll come out and you can have a drink, and I'm still fun, I think. Anyway, I'm not like that boring person. Like, I'll just drive and we can still hang out. I'll go to all the places. I'll stay up late for you as well if you come over.
There you go. Jordan Banks, ladies and gentlemen, the designated driver for all of us. All right, my friend. You have a good rest of your day, rest of your week, and we'll speak soon. And congratulations on everything and inclusion in the light drop. I think that's going to be amazing. So congratulations on everything you're working on.
Yeah, I'm stoked about that. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And yeah, thanks again.